Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the April meeting of the Measure X Citizens Oversight Committee. I appreciate you all taking time to be here on time so that we have a quorum and we can get started. So I appreciate that. I'm Norm Groot, I'm your chair, and I want to start first by apologizing and missing the last meeting. I had a family medical emergency happen that morning and was unable to attend. So apologize for the last change there, but we'll go forward from here. And at this point, I guess we need to do a roll call.
League of Women Voters, Howard Bosler.
He stepped out. He stepped out.
He's stepping in now.
Right there.
Yes.
Here.
Howard. Salinas Valley Taxpayers Association, Kevin Diggin.
Here.
Monterey Peninsula Taxpayers Association, Tom Raleigh.
Here.
Senior Disabled Service Agency, John McPherson.
Here.
Bicyclist Advocate, Victoria Beach.
Here.
Transit Users, Maria Vera. Alternate Andrea Monzo. Labor Organization, Ron Smalley.
Here.
Central Coast Building Exchange, Christine Crumbs.
Here.
Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce, Ray Hammer. Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, Monica Lau.
There she is on the screens, but she doesn't count for quorum.
Right. Couch for.
Shame on you, Monica.
Sierra
But she's here.
Dale Agrone. Monterey Peninsula Hospitality Association, Martine Watkins.
Here.
Monterey County Farm Bureau, Nora Groot.
Here.
Alternate Paul Arnado.
Here.
Monterey County Office of Education, Darren Fort.
Here.
South County Representative Paula Getzelman. Latino Organization, Chris Barrera. Alternate Diane. North County Representative Rosemary Bernard.
Here by Zoom, but my alternate is there.
Yes, alternate Ed Mitchell.
Here.
Pedestrian Representative Robin Lee. Youth College Representative.
So Robin Lee isn't here, but I'm here for alternate Lori.
Lori. Oh, okay, Lori. I think we have your card out.
I'll get it.
Okay.
Lori, why don't you come to the table?
Youth College and Andromeda Jebela. Construction Representative Sean Hebert. And alternate Casey.
Here.
Okay. Chair, we have the card.
All right. Thank you very much for the roll call, and we will move now into the agenda. And number 2 is public comments. Any member of the public may address the board or the committee here on any item not on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the committee. All public comments are limited to 3 minutes unless specified otherwise by the chair, and I will limit it to 3 minutes. Comments on items in the agenda may be given when that agenda item is discussed, and I will announce it at that time. Persons who wish to address the board for public comment on any item on the on an item on the agenda are encouraged to submit comments in writing to Maria by 4:30 p.m. Friday before the meeting. And such comments will be distributed at the meeting. Did we have any comments like that?
No.
No comments submitted. So at this point, are there any members of the public who'd like to make a comment for items not on the agenda? Any online? I see no raised hands. All right, I will close public comment and we will move on to item 3, the consent agenda. And we have one item on the consent agenda, which is approve the draft minutes of the February 20th, 24 meeting. Are there any comments from committee members on the minutes as presented? Any members of the public who would like to comment on the minutes? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
All right, so I heard motion by Cromedes and second by McPherson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Passes unanimously. Appreciate that very much. Now, at the discretion of the chair here, we're going to mix up the agenda a little bit and we're going to move to item number 6.
She wants to abstain.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't ask for abstention. I apologize. One abstention noted here. Thank you. All right, now we're going to move to item number 6 on the agenda and take that item first on the agenda for our action items or our review items. This is to recommend to the Board of TAMC to amend Ordinance 2016-01 to revise the Measure X maintenance of effort requirement for Sand City. Go ahead and turn this over to Mike. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon. Mike Zeller, TMC's Director of Programming and Project Delivery. So this is a follow-up item from discussion that we had at the last meeting regarding Sand City's challenges with meeting the Measure X maintenance of effort requirement. From that last discussion that we had at the last meeting, there were several items that were requested to be brought back for discussion. One of which was the language of the original maintenance of effort, along with how that was amended in 2019, along with the staff report for that as well. So that is included as an attachment to the staff report that's in the packet. There was another request for information on the existing maintenance of effort for all of Monterey County jurisdictions as compared to their population and centerline miles. That table is included on page 20. I think what you'll see there with the request for that table is that Sand City's current maintenance of effort at about $537,000, just over that, is more than about half of the jurisdictions in Monterey County. And then comparing that to their population of 372 and centerline miles of 5, you can see that they are the level of their maintenance of effort. Following the discussion that we had at the last meeting, Sand City did provide us some additional information regarding what their most recent general transportation expenditures from the general fund have been for the most recent fiscal years from 2019 through 2022, 2023. And that table is also included on page 20 and 21 of the agenda packet. And what you'll see there is that the general recurring expenses that the city has had recently has been in an average of about $200,000, about $210,000. And that was the request that the city had made in their letter that was provided to us, was to look at readjusting the maintenance effort to about $200,000. And that is consistent with the financial data that they were able to provide to us. So with that information, agency staff has been open to making an accommodation for Sand City to try to bring them back into compliance, understanding the challenges that they've had with verifying the maintenance of effort in prior years, and with the understanding that the information, that financial information that was reported to the state was likely overstated and incorrect. So it was not consistent with what the city was actually doing, and that finding that financial information has been difficult with the turnover that the city has had recently. So with that information, what we have up on the screen is a proposal, staff proposal to modify the Measure X ordinance that would take into account this change for Sand City. So you can see the language would remain the same, except for the underlined part, which would add in the exception for Sand City to make their maintenance of efforts specific to the 4 fiscal years, the average of the 4 fiscal years that are included in the staff report. And that would set that as the baseline amount for the city starting in this coming fiscal year. And then establishing that as the baseline amount, that would then treat it the same as all the other jurisdictions where they have the baseline amount set. And then that amount gets indexed annually going forward. So that would be the same for Sand City as well. So with that, I believe there's, that provided back a lot of information that the committee was looking for. So at this point, I think we'll open it up for questions and discussion.
So if we're supporting this language here, what is the process if we make this recommendation to the TAMC board? Then it goes to their review, their approval, and what happens after that?
On page 21 of the staff report, there is a process. Thank you for bringing that up. Once there's a review and recommendation from this oversight committee to the board, there would be a 45-day public comment period. So we would post this in classified ads in the newspaper and open it up for public comment. We would hold a public hearing at our board of directors, and that would be include a first reading of the ordinance amendment. And then we would bring back the amendment for a second vote at our board. And then you can see that that would require a 2/3 vote and a simple majority weighted vote based on population to approve. So there would be a bit of a process to make that to happen, but we have done this once before. So not insurmountable, it just takes a bit of time to work through the process.
So a reasonable expectation might be that this could be completed within 6 months.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any comments?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
This is much better for them. They're such a small place, like this last year. Last year they got $39,000. That represents a third decimal point issue. They're at 0.0017. Okay, they're not even a blip in affecting the overall effort. So I think if this makes them have an MOE of 200,000 and they're getting such a small amount of money, they're always going to be failing to get through their, well, not always their life, but they're getting such little X dollars compared to their MOE, they're always going to be failing in terms of ever achieving that level. So I was wondering if it could be even less than this.
Well, I guess two parts to that. The first part is the 200,000 is to be spent from non-Measure X funds, so from their transportation expenditures from their general fund, and the 39,000 of Measure X would be on top of that 200,000. So it would come from other sources.
Right. So I misunderstood. I didn't catch it. Thank you very much.
So there is that part. The amount that we have included was what was requested from the city and what they provided information for. The committee could make a recommendation for a lower amount, I guess, if that was the purview of the committee.
Yes, go ahead.
I was looking at this too, and I noticed that the $41,934 puts them way above everybody else. And if that's it seems that even that amount sounds very out of line. Monterey is 31,000. Seaside Salinas is 17,000. San City is 41.
So I apologize.
Where are you looking?
Yeah,
I divided that figure by number 5.
What page?
And came up with that figure, and it looks really high.
Page 20.
Most of these are in the 5, some of them are under $1,000.
So I'm sorry, did you do a calculation of the maintenance and effort by mileage, or what is that what you did?
The
MOE divided by miles, satellite miles.
Okay, thanks for the
yeah, they're all lost.
It's way too high. It just looked weird to me.
Quick comment.
Yes.
Yeah, Tom Raleigh with MPTA. I've talked to the mayor. They've got a massive building program ongoing in Sand City. So their past expenditures are not going to show any relation to what's happening in the future.
Yeah.
Now, how much that is, I don't know. I don't know the amount. She didn't say, but they've got stuff going on there now that they're under the gun from the state. So I don't think we should mess with these proposed figures. I don't think we should mess with them. I think we should stick with them rather than try and cut it back. They're gonna need the money.
I'm not sure I understand your rationale. Would you try that again?
Well, because they've got a lot of street building going on, and a lot of programs going on that they didn't have for years, getting permits for all the work that's gonna be done there.
Right.
And they have a couple of huge developments going on. That's per the mayor.
So I'm not understanding your rationale of not supporting a change here.
Yeah, I'm supporting the change
Oh,
they're recommending. I'm
misunderstood.
saying, let's not mess with what staff has come up with.
Okay, I'm sorry, misunderstood that. Okay. Any other comments? Otherwise, I think I'd like to give the opportunity to the representative from Sand City to make a comment if you'd like to.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to consider this. I'm Veep Kanolgat. I'm the city manager for Sand City. I do think that Mike really presented the issue. I don't want to confuse it anymore as to when you have some developments going in. The $200,000 is an average that we've spent on our streets from our general fund over the last 4 fiscal years. So we think it's a pretty safe bet that is an amount that we can reach every fiscal year. It is, as was pointed out, we have very few street lights, and it has therefore been absolutely impossible for us to meet the MOE for so many years, and the fund, we've been unable to obtain even a small amount of funds that we do get measure. So I really appreciate you considering this, and I'm here if there are any additional questions.
Great, thank you. All right.
I'd like to get it clear.
I'm sorry.
Will they be penalized or not? Will they penalize their any measure X dollars with this implementation? Will they remain in a condition like we heard coming out of 2023 with their funds, if I'm correct, ma'am?
Yes.
If I'm correct, that the measure X funds were held up from being given to them because they fell so far behind the 590 something. So does this affect them in any way with Measure X and get their funds in the future?
That you're talking about the retro funds that have been withheld?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm not sure I understand the mechanics of that. So maybe Mike, you can help us with that one. We have withheld funds for multiple years now.
That is correct. This is looking, what's before you here today is what's looking forward. Excuse me. So there would be about the 116,000, just over 116,000 that has been withheld to date from the city. The committee could make a recommendation that those be forwarded back to the city if they're able to get back into compliance with this this proposal. And we can bring that to the board for consideration as well. But what is here is just looking forward. So a separate recommendation would be needed for the retroactive.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay. All right. Hold off a second here. I think I want to go for public comment first before we start talking motions. So I'll ask if there's any public comment on this particular agenda item related to Sand City and their measure of effort. I'm not seeing any hands raised, so public comment.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this point, so I'll close public comment and come back if you'd like to make another comment, Mr. Fossil.
Yeah, I just want to be sure that Sand City is comfortable with that figure. It just seems very high.
Well, if you want to lower it, we would be okay with that. We were trying to find a number that matched the prior fiscal years that would, still be as close as possible to the very, very high MOEs. I mean, obviously the city would be happy with a lower number for an MOE, but 200,000 is something we feel we can match, but it is a large number. But it's not 530,000, whatever the original or the MOE was.
It certainly doesn't leave you in the same size as Delray Oaks or even Marina. So, well, all the smaller cities, they're just much less than that.
Yeah.
If you feel that's a fair number and you're satisfied with it, then help back. For sure.
Well, again, something lower would be appreciated as well, but we do have, we recently did a survey of city residents, and the number one concern the city residents had, or the number one desire that they had, was for the city to upgrade their streets. We have managed to upgrade 16% of our streets, have new asphalt on them. But so, yes, at some point, I suppose we won't have streets left to improve, but that would be such a good situation that we could, by then we would start over with streets. But it is something the city council is very, very focused on doing for its residents, is improving the streets, and the Measure X funds would really assist us. I do believe we can meet the 200,000, but obviously it would be easier to meet a lower amount. But we are putting a lot of focus on the streets.
Thank you. All right, Christy.
So I understand Howard's concerns, and absolutely it doesn't line up with the others. Unfortunately, it's got to be based on something. And originally, the numbers were based on something. And if we're going to change it, it's got to be based on something. So what we've come up with is a new equation just for Sand City. So I'm comfortable with that new equation, and feel that I do feel that you will be able to meet into the relatively near future the 200,000, and we have to base it on some sort of figures, and this is what we've got to go with, unfortunately.
Right, thank you. Yep.
I'm in agreement with Christie. We're an advisory board. My concern would be we start messing around with what the staff has put together. You're going to get some representatives of other municipalities saying, hey, I want to have a break here too. My number is too high. And while Sand City is clearly the worst in terms of the ratios, there are some others here that I think could make a case that they have a higher burden than others. So I think it would be better to just stick with a staff recommendation rather than to push it forward and risk backlash from the TMC board.
Right, thank you for that. Yeah, did you want to make the motion?
Mike, I want to get so you understand where I'm coming from. I am not coming from saying don't do that. I can live with that recommendation that Mike gave. I'm concerned about them in the past having not gotten Measure X funds. And I'm trying to see if, like Mike, I thought you were brilliant with your wording about how if they do this, their old money can be released to them. I thought that's what you said. With Measure X dollars to be released to them and come out of hibernation or wherever they are. That's what I'm working on.
So would you like me to make that motion so that it's clear?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I will make a motion that we reevaluate from the 2019 to the 2023 as has been presented by our wonderful staff. Adding on to that we would like the past monies that have been held up because Sand City did not meet the requirements to be released to them. We're making a recommendation. This is a recommendation to the board that that monies be released to Sand City.
And it's clear that those funds that have been withheld have not been reallocated at this point. Correct. Okay. All right. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All right. Second by Tom Rowley.
Very good motion.
Any further discussion on this?
Yeah, we'll just need to make sure that Vera Carboni, who is the representative on TMC, is aware of this recommendation and will be prepared to argue for it, especially the retroactive funding.
Right.
Right. Very good. Good comment. All right, then I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Sand City, for hanging in there with us and going through this process. We really appreciate it. All right, that concludes agenda item number 6. So we will now go back to agenda item number 4, which is receive a presentation on Measure X 6th year audit results and the Measure X annual report. And I will introduce this as chair of the subcommittee for the audit this year. This was our 6th year of Measure X funding, and our subcommittee met several times earlier this year to review the information. I first want to thank our committee participants with the Vice Chair, Sean Hebert, and other members, Christy Crominis, Kevin Dayton, Paula Getzelman, and Greg Hammer for their thoughtful input and meaningful discussion throughout the audit process. Also, thanks to TAMSI staff, Todd Muck, Mike Zeller, and Teresa Wright for providing us all the information and listening to all of our questions. The first subcommittee meeting really was to review the measure of effort and other compliance requirements that all the jurisdictions must meet annually to maintain their distribution of Measure X funding. We found that again this year, a majority of the jurisdictions met those required compliance documentation efforts and the measure of effort mandates, but 4 jurisdictions did not meet all those compliance requirements. Greenfield failed to supply descriptions of their Measure X projects, did not submit the 5-year capital improvement plan, and omitted their pavement condition index. Monterey failed to supply any of the required documents. Salinas did not supply the independent audit of their financial reports nor details on their measurement of effort, maintenance of effort, expenditures. And then Sand City, which we just discussed and approved change for, failed to meet their maintenance of effort. While the subcommittee members were pleased to see that 9 jurisdictions met all the requirements for compliance this past year, we noted that only 4 of the jurisdictions showed consistent compliance for each of those 6 years that we've had Measure X funding, which are Delray Oaks, Gonzales, King City, and the County of Monterey. The subcommittee crafted language that is now included in the TAMSI report that you see on the screen. The annual report, you also have copies in your packets today. We continue to highlight the success of the self-funding measure and has the improvement in the funding that is brought to our local transportation projects and programs. On a personal note, I believe this level of transparency is a model for how oversight committees can effectively work to build confidence in our communities and demonstrate that our tax dollars are being placed into effective projects that improve the overall quality of life. Again, I thank the subcommittee for their work and their willingness to engage on the annual Measure X audit. So with that, I will ask if any of the subcommittee members want to make comments at this point. All right, well, no.
Yeah, well,
Kevin,
I agree with you. This is a model for what every oversight committee in the state should be doing. This is why I tell people this is the best oversight committee in the state. This chart here that puts it all out, you actually not even, you go beyond, oh, just this year and you show the whole record of it. And boy, does it, I think it's very accurate in exposing systematic problems in certain places for certain reasons. I am very disappointed about, I live in the city of Monterey, that late compliance. I did talk to the city manager about it. It's a shame since I had just bragged several months ago when Mr. Buckley's presentation about how the city of Monterey always complies. And I think a few other people here are residents of Monterey. I just don't understand it, why that would happen. But I think this is great. And keep in mind, I remember when we first started doing the accountability chart, some of the TMC board members at the time did not like it because it exposed them. And you should expect that continued criticism. And thank you, staff, for holding firm. We shouldn't give in to those who don't like this. Thank you.
All right, Teresa.
Maria, can you go back to the first slide? I just wanted to talk about this. So the TAMSI annual report is going to be mailed out to all of the residents in Monterey County. It's to go out probably about mid-May. May 15th. So what you see is the cover of the annual report. Included in that is the audit report that this committee did. So Maria, if you can go to the next page. This is what it looks like. So this is the cover. This is the report that the committee wrote up. Norm signed it, and then it has that chart at the end. So I just wanted to point that out to you, that you are getting the preview. This is what's Norm, you will be presenting this to our board as well next month, and then the mailing. And so the timing is such that it will be in the mail and going out to all of the residents in Monterey County and the businesses at that point. But I just wanted to walk through what you saw on the screen. So this is the cover. And then the next page is the signature page in the chart that shows what Kevin just referenced, all of the years to date and the compliances. So
It's also translated to Spanish.
yes, it's two-sided.
Bilingual.
It's bilingual.
Correct. All right, any other comments on this? Yes, Ed.
I agree with the overall rating that there's like 8 good, four that aren't doing well. Okay. From a reporting standpoint, whatever. I agree with that. I think that finding is accurate from looking at the numbers that I've got. Given that finding, is there a recommendation here to that higher board on what we're going to take action on, either TAMC or the Oversight Committee is going to do about it? What management action are we going to take given these findings?
Well, I think the short answer there is they don't get their funding. They're disqualified from receiving the Measure X funding because they did not have the compliance reports or documentation submitted.
So their funding is withheld until they come into compliance. So
like
using Monterey as an example, they didn't submit by deadline, so it's noted as they're late, but they have fully complied, so now they are eligible to receive future funds. Whereas San Sadie is still out of compliance with maintenance of effort until your last action gets finalized. So that's the process, and that's already incorporated in the ordinance. And then we follow up with the cities that have trouble complying and help their staff hopefully to get to be in compliance next year.
Right. So Nancy's going to work cooperatively with them to encourage them, help them recognize how to get the right answer.
Within our ability to do that, there's certain things like audit deadlines and having audits in time that are, we can't, move forward faster, but if there's an area that we can help people, we will.
Yeah, for example, I think Soledad got $607,000 for their reporting process. Doesn't show that they spent any of it, and we all know that that's not true. They've been out there spending. So I think the Oversight Committee needs to keep track of this. I think your actions are going to be good to do, but it'd be helpful to come back downstream and see if you've got positive response. And if not, I think the Oversight Committee could ask them to come in here and report on that. Because some of this is consistent across year to year. Small staffs have difficulty, totally understand that. As long as they're responding to your wise guidance, that's fine too. But if not, then I think that might cause a secret. Say, please come in and talk to us.
Yeah, we can certainly consider doing that. So yes, Chris.
I agree with everything what you had to say about pointing out who is in compliance and who's not. Regarding Salinas, it says incomplete submittal. What exactly does that mean? And
they didn't
submit their documents, including their independent audit of the financial reports nor their maintenance of effort.
Okay. All right. Is this the first time Salinas had not met?
Did you all relate? You can look at the chart and see. It is the third time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Therefore, that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to pound anybody in the ground. Actually trying to be supportive here, not get pounded in the ground. 3 times too much from my standpoint.
Yeah.
And if they're not responding to Todd previously, good guy, they haven't responded to him then. So far, it's like, well, come on in and talk to the principal now. Us.
No, we can certainly look at that. John?
Yeah, I concur with everybody said. It stings a little bit for me. We lost for senior bus passes. We lost funding going through the contractual process with TAMSEC. Totally understand the reasons why, but to then see other entities kind of making assumptions that no, we'll just get the money and we don't have to do what the requirements are, is it stinks a little bit. So I concur that if any public agency is receiving these benefits, they need to comply with what the requirements are.
Well, that's the whole definition of self-help, as we designed this whole proposition around the fact that we are able to help municipalities in the county with their road effort funding, maintenance of effort funding, excuse me, and make sure that they are continuing to improve our roads, our bike paths, our sidewalks, whatever the case may be. And this just kind of shows maybe on their part that they're not paying attention to the ball as much as they should. So I agree that at some point maybe we should have some of them come in and explain their situation, particularly if it goes 6 months that they haven't come back into compliance. I mean, that's a long time to remain out there and not find that compliance effort.
One other comment.
Yeah.
I have been saying all along, and my research is proving that there is a great story here about how things have been managed. There are 68.5% of the budget goes to two places, the county and to Salinas. They control a huge amount of that budget. And both of them have went off and not only met the MOE, but they like doubled how much the money they were given from Measure X. Great story, great management. It's happening the way we wanted it. The difficulty with that great message is the problems that the little cities in the valley are having, mostly, tarnishes them because of a reporting issue. And I don't think it's because of that they took the money and went someplace and spent it on what they weren't supposed to. That's unfair to people here like Christy and Kevin and all of you that have been doing this for a long time. So it's not trying to beat them up, it's trying to get them there. If they don't come around, then we should go them.
All right, any other comments on this? Yes.
I think it'd be interesting to hear from the staff how much time is spent gathering, putting pressure on them to get all this in on time.
Mike answered.
Yeah, Mike, sorry.
It's Mike.
So in roughly October of each year, we send reminder letters out to all the jurisdictions that their reporting requirements are coming up at the end of the year. So usually about mid-October, we send that letter to the city managers and then CC the financial and public works staff. Included with that letter that we send, there are templates that the cities can use to put together their annual report. So we try to make it as easy as possible. And then we also tell them, we provide them with a checklist of these are all the different components that are required to be included. The narrative on the projects that you spent Measure X funding on, before and after pictures, a breakdown of your maintenance of effort requirement, and here's what your maintenance of effort requirement is. And then we also give them templates for the financial audit as well. So by about mid-October, they have all of this information to work with. Then we also follow up again at the beginning of December, just with another reminder. And we also offer staff assistance that if any of the jurisdictions want to submit a draft of their annual report, we can review that beforehand to make sure that they have everything included. So we do try to give them as much information and make it as easy as possible, but there's still responsibility on their end to do the work and get it submitted on time.
Are they working on a fiscal year ending in October?
Their fiscal year ends June 30th.
Jared, so from June 30th to 2023, we have people that haven't reported into this quarter. I think that answers your question.
I mean, do you feel it's a reasonable effort that you put in, or is it, are you called on to provide an unreasonable amount of effort?
I feel it's a reasonable effort. I think in terms of, looking at an example of Salinas, for example, this is a situation where their overall city audit has been delayed. And so the Measure X audit gets caught up in that as well. And this is just kind of time to time, something that happens with the cities is that their financial audits get delayed. It's, unfortunate and bad. There are penalties for not meeting it. They understand that. So it's on the city's responsibility to try to work with our auditors to get things turned in on time.
I can understand how situational things occur. What I'm concerned about is recidivists. There's some bad actors on here. Does that cost you time and energy to go after them?
It's essentially follow up with the jurisdictions. It's not a large amount of the time that it takes for us to do that. But like you mentioned, frequent recidivist on the list, they're showing up consistently in this annual report that gets sent out to all the residents of Monterey County that they're consistently late. I feel like we get to a point where there's only so much that we can do, and it's their responsibility to take the next step and actually get it done.
Well, I think that our committee certainly doesn't want to see you burdened by this. It should. The things we can do. We've talked a long time when we talked about penalties for like, and maybe that needs to be reviewed.
Well, I feel that the penalty of withholding their funding and getting a demerit in the annual report is sufficient. From my perspective, we're trying to help the jurisdictions to use the funding to get projects done, not necessarily to be punitive, but we do want to make sure that we're holding some stick, some leverage to be able to gain compliance. I feel we have the tools that we need to make that happen.
Okay. All right, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, how do you eventually get compliance? Like how late are they usually? Is there a sort of a timeline associated with it, or?
In this instance with Salinas this year, it's been a lot longer than it typically is. Usually, if a city's audit is late, usually a couple months is the typical norm for them to get things resolved. This has kind of been an outlier this year.
So eventually they get it resolved. But if they had 2 years of incomplete submittal, they wouldn't receive funding for that.
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry, just to clarify, it's each year they've been incomplete and then they come into compliance, so they get their money. And then next year they're out of compliance and we wait until they're in compliance. So it's not 2 years worth of.
But if they had 2 years of incomplete submittal and not or we're unable to meet compliance twice, they wouldn't receive funding for this.
There was the period in between where they came into compliance
And that's what
and they received their funding, and then the next year, the following year, they fell out of compliance again. So it's on hold.
So for example, just to make sure I'm clear, sorry, because I'm new. So for Salinas, if they had an incomplete submittal in 2022, 2023, and late compliance the year before, so they received funding because they could eventually comply for 2021, 22.
Correct.
But if they had an incomplete for 2022, 23, they have not received funding.
Not until they come into compliance.
Not until they come to compliance. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. That really truly is the penalty, is they are out of compliance, they don't get the money. Yeah.
Is that a lower rate or the same rate of pay?
Excuse me?
Is that a lower rate or the same rate of pay? If you're late, are you taking money from them?
No, we don't.
Why not?
Withhold any.
That's not the way X was written.
Correct. The way that it was written is that we withhold the funding that they would receive until they come back into compliance. Once they are in compliance, then they receive their funding that they would have been otherwise awarded.
Okay, so can you lower the amount anyway? I mean, a bad apple's a bad apple. If you're late, right? That's the way I was always raised. If you don't pay your income tax on time, they tax on it. We can't tax them on it, but can we take something away from you?
I think when we've looked at this before, there's when we're withholding the funds, there's a certain amount of interest that gets accrued. That stays with the agency and goes towards our regional fund. But the full amount that the city would be eligible for is just those two. It would take a look at it, but likely change the ordinance to, and then as well as our tax sharing agreements with all the jurisdictions to make a change like that.
And that's something we can consider as a committee and make that recommendation at some point, but I think it's gonna be a heavy lift, and I think it's something we need to be very careful about how we consider it. Because it does require all the jurisdictions to approve that, if I'm correct. Yes. The way X is written at this point, so certainly something we can put on the agenda for later on at another meeting if we want to continue that discussion, but in my view, that's a heavy lift. Yes, Carol.
Would you remind me, I'm sorry, I missed it if you said it today, how long does a applicant have to try to fix the application that's missing something? And they just never seem to be able to get what you need in there. Do you cancel the contract after a while? Or give the money to some other group that needs it?
Well, I think Mike can explain the allocation of how that works.
Certainly. Once a jurisdiction falls out of compliance, they have 2 years to rectify the issue. After 2 years, if they are still out of compliance, then the funds that have been withheld are redistributed to the remaining jurisdictions.
Yes.
Just to give you some perspective from what we hear from the board is generally the direction we get from the board is to do the most we can to help the jurisdictions get into compliance. And in the case of maybe using Greenfield as an example of a repeat offender, Greenfield's a very small town with limited resources, and the board continually asks us to help them versus to punish them. Yeah. So we're following our board guidance in that way. Is the same way we treated Sand City in that we have not recommended redistributing their funds, even though it's been over 2 years. We were more focused on resolving the issue and helping them get back into compliance because redistributing $100,000 won't affect any of the other jurisdictions, and it will hurt the small one. So that's kind of the direction we've got from the board and what we follow.
I totally agree. I think we're here to help.
All right.
Have we received any correspondence on letterhead or otherwise from the city of Monterey and the city of Salinas regarding their problems? In other words, a letter that said, well, our public works director has died and our CPA is retired, so we're going to be late. Do you have anything from them that would be a reasonable explanation to why they didn't comply?
Just email correspondence.
Thank you.
All right. I will ask for public comment on this particular item. Is there any member of the public who would like to make a comment on this particular audit report? Seeing any raised hands either in the room or on the screen, so I'll close the public comment. This is an item that we are receiving, so there's no action necessary. So thank you all for the comments here. And my one parting comment here is that there were a lot of good things said here today. And next year, when it comes around to appointing the subcommittee to do the audit, I hope you will raise your hands and participate and make your comments known during the subcommittee process also. I think it'd be extremely critical to have those voices on the committee so that we can continue this discussion.
October.
Thank you. October. Got that down? Put it on your calendars. All right, we will move on to item number 5, receive a presentation on the progress of the Salinas Valley Safe Routes to Schools plan and the participatory budgeting process. Did you want to introduce this or do I go directly to Aaron?
Directly, yes.
All right, we'll go directly to Aaron. Thank you very much.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Aaron Hernandez. I'm a transportation planner with the agency, and today I'm going to give you an update on the Salinas Valley Safe Routes to School participatory budgeting project. Go ahead and next slide. So just to real quickly cover, so I'll be going over the participatory budgeting, an overview of it, and the Salinas Valley Safe Routes to School plan, and then in this participatory budgeting process, we have a steering committee that guide this process. So I'll be talking more about the steering committee and their process, and then going over what's next steps for this project. So go ahead, slide. So to back up a bit, so participatory budgeting is a section under the overall Salinas Valley Safe Routes to School plan. The Salinas Valley Safe Routes to School plan is our third plan that TMC is working on here in Monterey County. The first two were the Seaside and Marina Safe Routes to School plan, and then more recently adopted the Salinas Safe Routes to School plan. The Salinas Valley Safe Routes to School plan covers the 4 incorporated cities in Southern Monterey County, so King City, Greenfield, Soledad, and Gonzales. Within those cities, 22 schools are covered in finding ways to improve traffic safety for kids who walk and bike to school. And we received a grant from Caltrans to conduct this plan, with Measure X being a local match for this project, or for the grant that we received on this as well. And as of how it stands right now, we are kind of towards the end of the planning process for creating this plan, and the plan is expected to be completed by the end of 2024. So what exactly is participatory budgeting? Participatory budgeting is actually a new process that we're doing in our Safe Routes to School planning. It wasn't in the previous 2 plans, but it is for the Salinas Valley plan. And what it is that it's a democratic process where the community can actually get involved in how projects should be funded in Safe Routes to School projects. Next slide. So in kind of to dissect the participatory budgeting process, there's kind of 4 key components to it. It starts by designing the process, where we'll kick off with a lot of data collection, working with the city, consulted engineers to look at the traffic safety issues around schools, and create a large list of projects that would go to the overall Safe Routes to School plan. And for the participatory budgeting process, TAMC has allocated about $1 million in total of regional surface transportation funding to fund these projects that would go through this process. And each of the 4 cities would be receiving $250,000 to construct these projects. And so there's a whole designing with the steering committee, and I'll get more into it in a bit. And then the second step is to then select the projects. So of those $250,000, you can only fit so many projects into that budget. So we work with the steering committee to have them decide which of the larger list of projects from the Safe Routes to School plan would fit in the participatory budgeting category. And then the third step is to have a community election. And then the 4th step is to then fund those winning projects that results in the community election. So next slide. So forming the steering committee plays a huge role in the participatory budgeting process. For each, I want to go one more slide here. So forming the steering committee was critical because we wanted to get as much people, a diverse amount of people from the community involved. So we did that through a number of ways. At the start of the Saline Valley Safe School Planning process, we did safety audits around schools and parent meetings where we would invite parents to walk around with us and to look at the safety issues that they see when they take their child during commute times for school. And then we also reached out. A large help of this was our partnership with Ecology Action and Martin County Health Department. With their team, they were able to help us get the word out about the importance of the Safe Routes to School plan, but also an opportunity for people to serve on a steering committee in participatory budgeting. And the health department has had extensive networking in each of the cities already with a lot of the programs that they have been doing, such as like for one program they have is called the Enlace program, and then they've also been involved with a lot of like health events, like Cyclovia, for instance, in Greenfield. So through them, we were able to get connected with a lot of residents, particularly those. Mainly, most of the steering committee composes of moms who have kids at schools and community advocates, such as Lidias Campesinas, who works with a lot of the farm worker residents in these cities, and a few other organizations as well. So next slide. So step one in the participatory budgeting is creating the process. So once we have the steering committees formed, we, in their application to be part of the steering committee, they made it known that they would commit to serving in 8 monthly meetings, each monthly meeting being three hours long. So to recognize that they will be spending some time on this process. And each of the meetings were held primarily in Spanish with translation in English. And when the steering committees met for each city, we kind of went over them, what the expectations were, and really to make it known to them that they are the ones that pretty much have like the power to drive the whole participatory budgeting process. To start with the planning of the projects and the committee election, we had some extensive discussion about planning for the committee election. So in probably 2 of the meetings that we had, those for each committee, that was like long discussions of like, okay, who should be eligible to vote? Where should voting take place? What are ways that we can outreach to the community to make sure that this community election and these projects are known throughout the city. And then once all the procedures are set in place and the election planning rules are set, then next slide. Then the committee can then talk more about selecting which projects can get to go on the public ballot. So again, each city is only getting $250,000. So this committee has to work with, okay, what projects can realistically fit in this $250,000 category? Since in the larger plan, you have project recommendations that could go for $1 million or more. And some of the parameters that we set with the committee is that aside from the $250,000, the project must be implemented with 3 years, and it must provide some kind of benefit to a safe routes to school connection. So with the 3-year time limit, we've had the city review those projects that would fall under the PD category to make sure that the city would be able to implement those within 3 years. So it was a lot of narrowing down that the committee had to do. Some cities had, I think our largest list of participatory budgeting projects that we had was King City. They had about 45 projects. And their concern was that they don't want people looking at all 45 projects and have to choose which one's the best one. So they narrowed it down to a set of 2 proposals with a bundle of projects that would add up to 50, and then folks would just choose 250,000 or choose which proposal, either proposal 1 or proposal 2 in that. So if you go to the next slide. So yes, once each committee finalized the projects that they want to go on the ballot, it was time for voting. And voting isn't necessarily just like, okay, we have the project set, now let's wait to hear what the committee has to say. The committee was heavily involved in a lot of outreach work to make it known that this election was out there. We formally, with TAMC's assistance and our partners, we assisted the committee in hosting an election kickoff event where it would be the opportunity for people to come and learn about the projects. For one of them, for example, in the city of Soledad, we held a tabling event at the farmers market, and we did a lot of promotional activities to invite people to the Soledad farmers market. Some committee members, they wanted to do a radio announcement or distribute flyers at local food banks or their churches, or even do presentations at schools. So there was a lot of planning just to do that one election kickoff event, but they also went further beyond to even do their own types of events, or if they had an event that they've been personally involved in, we worked with them to provide all the materials that they needed to promote the election at their activities that they get involved in. Some community elections, it was really up to the steering committee to decide, you know, how long they wanted the election to occur. Some of them, one of them probably last per week. Our current one that's going on, that's about San Gonzalez, is going to be a month. So they drive this whole outreach process in the community election. Next slide. And so once the committee votes and TAMC staff, we get all the materials and all the data together to show the results to the committee. And then the committee will then make a recommendation to their city council to approve the projects that were voted by the committee, by the public. And then once the city council approves those projects, then it goes back to the TAMC board for the TAMC board to be able to disperse the funding of those projects. Next slide. So from the moment that the TAMC board provides the $250,000, the cities have 3 years to implement these projects. What you're seeing here is actually our first project that is currently in construction with our first committee that we worked on, the Greenfield Committee. And the top projects that the committee voted on was to build a sidewalk that would connect on 12th Street between Oak Elementary School and Vista Verde Middle School. So already underway, the city is now well underway in constructing this project. This picture was probably like a month ago, so I'm pretty sure they've made a lot of progress since then. But it really shows, you know, the effort that it takes, the huge effort that it took for the steering committee and partners and the community to voice their concerns of which of the safety concerns in their community, and then to be able to see a project get implemented within a small time frame. I guess really says a lot, since, you know, generally infrastructure projects can, you know, take a long while. So so next steps. Next steps, basically, so we've completed 3 participatory budgeting steering committees with King City, Greenfield, and Soledad. Gonzales is our current group that we're underway with, and their election starts in 2 days. So just a little invitation to you all, if anyone's interested to see like how an election kickoff works and kind of how the whole process works, we invite you to the Gonzales Car Show this Saturday. We will have a table set up there, and you know, we have to explain like the whole process and what the projects are that will be on the ballot. So this is going in our press release. So that's the committee majority there, and then once that's done, the overall Salinas Valley Safe Bus School Plan will be expected to be completed by the end of this year. So and with that, I'm happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you, Eric. Are there any questions or comments from committee members on this? Yeah.
Yes, oh, Daily.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I taught Greenfield for 12 years before I retired. And I have been in all the school districts. How many children are we talking about in terms of all cities that are involved?
Children, I don't have the exact number, but we did create enrollment data that lists where all students live, and we incorporate that into the plan.
So how many students are we talking about?
Yeah, I guess roughly as an estimate, thinking about fields. I want to say roughly.
We're gonna have to get back to you with that split number, and when the report is written, it will have that.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add a little bit, the report was used to go after future grants at the state level. So there's data that's collected for each of the schools that is valuable in the grant application. So by such information.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I have a question on the participatory budgeting election process. I'm fully supportive of stakeholder involvement and community involvement in this type of a project selection. I'm just wondering, with the low numbers that you're showing here, which is just a minor fraction of each of those cities' population, is the effort that we're putting out to do this particular election worth the results at this point? Do we feel it's a success?
Like for the voter count numbers, right? The voter turnout.
Well, like the total votes in Greenfield probably are 250 out of their entire population that voted in this. So is that a function of how the students are designing this, or I'm not sure I understand why the numbers in that, if it's a public participatory election, why the numbers are bigger.
Yeah, so that's kind of, in the process of what the committee does is, outreaching to as many as people as possible. For some cities, some numbers turned out, higher and lower than others, but it really, I think, probably to provide more context in at least some of those numbers, like King City was the city that received the most votes from the community versus like Greenfield and Soledad. And what we learned with the committees is that what King City did kind of differently is that they had multiple in-person events that was already hosted by like the community. So like this picture right here is actually the Trunk or Treat event in King City. That wasn't our kickoff, but that was another event where the community wanted to go in, or the committee wanted to go in to do outreach. And what we kind of learned is that going into where the community already exists, especially if it's in a public setting, that'll get you the most results and the feedback from people. So that's kind of one thing that we're doing throughout this process.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the explanation. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Did students also vote, or was this all parents?
Students were, for the most part, I think committees wanted most students to vote. The steering committees, they wanted to put an age limit. I think most age limits were between like 14 years of age. So being in high school or up, that was awesome.
All right. Any other comments? All right, I will take it out to the public. Are there any members of the public who'd like to comment on this particular item? Seeing a flurry of hands go up. All right, we'll close public comment. So thank you very much for the report. We appreciate it. It is a receive effort here, so no necessary action on the part of the committee here. So that takes us through item 5. We'll now move to item 7, announcements and or comments. Do you have announcements? Anybody have announcements?
I got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see one.
So the individual that used to be my replacement, my secondary, Lynn Shower has passed away.
Ooh. Okay.
Chris, I will you an email, but I do have another candidate that is coming Garcia from operating here.
Okay. So we'll go through that process and get him approved for the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And condolences to the family. Didn't know that.
I just have a question. Is there a backup for Hospitality Association? I know that's been vacant the last few times.
No, there, oh, I'm sorry, it's Gary.
Pardon?
Gary Curcio is the ultimate.
Yeah, he's,
Hospitality.
but who's the, is there a primary and an alternate?
Martine.
Martine,
Oh,
right here.
Hey, just didn't make it.
Perhaps would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, it's nice to meet everybody. My name is Martine Watkins. I'm here on behalf of the Monterey Peninsula Hospitality Association, but I work for the Monterey Bay Aquarium, doing local government and business affairs. Recently started in January, so new to the position. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome, great. Welcome. Thank you. All right, any other announcements or comments? Right, then our next meeting is on Tuesday, August 20th at 2 p.m. And it will be here in the same room, it looks like. Is that correct? Okay. All right, so with that, if there's no further business, I will adjourn this month's meeting. Thank you all for your time today and the thoughtful comments on all the items. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.